Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main viewport. The ship had been traveling for 3 months beyond Neptune's orbit, searching for signs of life in the vast darkness of space. Jake had volunteered for this mission because he believed humanity needed to know what was out there. He never expected to find the answer so soon. The ship's sensors began beeping frantically. Lieutenant Betty Collins, the communications officer, looked up from her station with wide eyes. "Commander, we're picking up massive energy signatures." "Ahead," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Whatever it is, it's big, really big." Jake moved to the sensor console and studied the readings. The numbers didn't make sense. The energy output was beyond anything human technology could produce. "How big are we talking about, Collins?" "Sir, if these readings are correct, we're looking at over 200 vessels. Each one is at least 5 times the size of our ship." Collins' hands shook as she adjusted the controls. "Commander, I don't think these are from Earth." The bridge fell silent except for the humming of the ship's engines. Jake felt his heart racing as he processed this information. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was terrifying. "Put it on the main screen," Jake ordered. The viewport shifted to display the sensor readings as a visual image. What they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp. A massive fleet of dark, angular ships hung in space like a swarm of metal insects. Each vessel was covered in strange lights that pulsed with an eerie blue glow. Suddenly, the communications console erupted with noise. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge, speaking in a language none of them had ever heard before. Then, without warning, the voice switched to perfect English. "Primitive vessel, you will cease your movement and prepare to be boarded. Your species has been selected for integration into the Zephyrian Galactic Empire. Resistance is futile." Jake grabbed the communication device. "This is Commander Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Defiance. We come in peace. We request peaceful contact and dialogue." The alien voice responded with what sounded like laughter. "Your requests are irrelevant. Your world will surrender within 72 hours of this transmission reaching your leaders. Failure to comply will result in the complete destruction of your planet and all life upon it." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Jake knew he had to act quickly. "Collins, open a priority channel to Earth Command. Send everything we've recorded. Tell them we have a code red situation." Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Carter was enjoying a quiet evening at her home when her secure phone rang. As the head of Earth's combined defense forces, she was used to late-night calls, but something about this one felt different. The voice on the other end was her aide, Captain Ryan Wells. "Admiral, you need to get to command immediately. We've received a transmission from Commander Morrison's ship." "Ma'am, we're not alone, and whoever they are, they're not friendly." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. She had always known this day might come, but she had hoped it would be far in the future. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Contact the President and the UN Security Council. Tell them to prepare for an emergency session." At the United Nations building in New York, President Helen Brooks was already in the situation room when Lisa arrived. The room was filled with world leaders, military officials, and scientists. The tension was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Dr. Amy Johnson, Earth's leading expert on theoretical alien contact, was studying the transmission data. Based on their technology and the size of their fleet, these beings are far more advanced than we are. They've clearly done this before. The way they spoke suggests they've conquered other worlds. General Paul Martinez, the head of global military operations, slammed his fist on the table. 72 hours. That's not enough time to prepare any kind of defense. We don't even know what we're up against. President Brooks raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Johnson, what do you know about this Zephyrian Empire?" Amy pulled up holographic displays showing the alien fleet. "From what we can determine, they're a highly organized military force. Their ships use energy sources we don't understand, and their technology is centuries ahead of ours. They mentioned selecting our species for integration, which suggests they've done this to other civilizations." The room erupted in worried voices. Some leaders suggested immediate surrender to save lives. Others demanded that Earth fight regardless of the odds. Lisa Carter stood up and addressed the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a choice to make. We can surrender and hope they treat us well, or we can fight and die as free beings. But there's a third option we haven't considered." Everyone looked at her with curiosity. President Brooks nodded for her to continue. "We send them a message, not a surrender, not a declaration of war, but a warning. We tell them exactly what will happen if they attack Earth." General Martinez looked confused. "Admiral, with all due respect, what can we threaten them with?" "They have superior technology and numbers," Lisa smiled grimly. "We don't threaten them with what we have, we threaten them with what we are. Humans don't surrender easily, we fight dirty. We never give up. Maybe it's time the galaxy learned that." The debate continued for hours, but eventually the world leaders reached a decision. They would send a unified message to the alien fleet. Not a plea for mercy, but a warning. Captain Ryan Wells, who had been listening to the discussions, stepped forward. "I volunteer to deliver the message, Admiral. I've spent years as a diplomat before joining the military. I know how to make our words count," Lisa nodded. "Make it clear, Captain. Make it strong. Let them know exactly what they're dealing with." The message was crafted carefully. It was broadcast on all frequencies, directed not just at the Zephyrian fleet, but at the entire galaxy. The transmission was simple but powerful. "This is Earth. We are humanity. We have received your demands and reject them completely. We issue you one warning, and we will only say this once. Stay away from our world. We do not seek conflict, but we will not submit to slavery. If you attack Earth, you will discover why our species has survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that lasted decades. We are not like the other worlds you have conquered. We are human, and we do not kneel. This is your only warning." The transmission ended, and the room fell silent. Everyone knew that humanity had just declared its independence to an empire that had never been challenged before. The die was cast, and there was no turning back. In the depths of space, Supreme Commander Vexstar of the Zephyrian Empire received the message aboard his flagship. He had conquered over 200 worlds, and no species had ever dared to speak to him this way. His anger was beyond measurement. "Prepare the fleet for immediate advance," he commanded his officers. "These humans will learn the price of defying the Zephyrian Empire. They will serve as an example to the galaxy of what happens to those who refuse our generous offer of citizenship." As the alien fleet began moving toward Earth, humanity prepared for the greatest challenge in its history. The warning had been given, and now they would have to prove they could back up their words with action. Supreme Commander Vexstar stood in the command center of his massive flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was 3 miles long and housed over 50,000 Zephyrian warriors. He had used this vessel to conquer dozens of worlds, and each victory had been swift and decisive. The human message still echoed in his mind, and it filled him with rage. "Pathetic creatures," he muttered to his second-in-command, General Crickstal. "In all my years of conquest, no species has ever dared to speak to the Zephyrian Empire with such disrespect. These humans will pay dearly for their insolence." General Crickstal nodded in agreement. "Commander, shall we proceed with standard bombardment protocol? A few orbital strikes should convince them to surrender." Vexstar's eyes glowed with anger. "No, these humans think they can threaten us. We will show them what happens when inferior beings challenge the might of the Empire. Order all ships to advance at maximum speed. I want to reach their world quickly and make an example of them." The Zephyrian fleet began moving toward Earth with deadly purpose. Their ships had conquered hundreds of worlds using the same tactics. First came the demand for surrender, then orbital bombardment, followed by ground invasion. No species had ever survived this process. The Empire's technology was thousands of years ahead of most civilizations they encountered back on Earth. Colonel Steve Adams worked frantically in a hidden laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. For 10 years, he had been developing weapons that most scientists considered impossible. His team had been working on projects that pushed the boundaries of human understanding of physics and engineering. "Doctor, we need those plasma cannons online now," Steve shouted to Dr. Karen White, the brilliant quantum physicist who had joined his team 5 years ago. "The alien fleet is moving faster than we expected." Karen looked up from her calculations. "Steve, I think I've figured out how their shield technology works. They use quantum field manipulation to deflect energy weapons, but there's a weakness. If we can create a resonance frequency that matches their shield harmonics, we might be able to disrupt them." Engineer Tony Rodriguez, who had been working on the weapon systems, raised his head from his workstation. "Karen, that's brilliant. If we can modify our magnetic railguns to fire at that exact frequency, we might actually have a chance against their shields." Steve felt a surge of hope. "How long do you need?" "Give me 12 hours, Karen replied. "Tony and I can modify the weapon systems, but we'll need to coordinate with the orbital defense platforms." Meanwhile, Captain Lisa Thompson was aboard the U's Vigilant, Earth's newest battleship. The ship was part of the hastily assembled Earth Defense Fleet, which consisted of every military vessel humanity could put into space. Lisa knew their chances were slim, but she also knew that humans had always found ways to win against impossible odds. "Captain, we're receiving updates from command," said Lieutenant Mark Davis, the ship's communication officer. "Colonel Adams' team has developed new weapons that might work against alien shields. We're to wait for their signal before engaging," Lisa nodded grimly. "What about the other ships in the fleet?" "All vessels are in position around Mars orbit. Admiral Carter has ordered us to use hit-and-run tactics. We attack, cause damage, then retreat before they can respond effectively." The strategy was simple, but dangerous. Earth's ships were smaller and faster than the alien vessels, but they were also far less powerful. The plan was to use humanity's natural tendency toward guerrilla warfare and unconventional tactics. Dr. Amy Johnson worked tirelessly in her laboratory, studying every piece of data they had collected about the Zephyrian technology. She had made a disturbing discovery about the alien empire's methods of conquest. "President Brooks, you need to see this," Amy said during an emergency video conference with world leaders. "I've analyzed their communication patterns and ship movements. The Zephyrians have conquered over 200 worlds using identical tactics. They never vary their approach because they've never needed to." President Brooks leaned forward. "What does that mean for us?" "It means they're not prepared for an enemy that fights back in unexpected ways. Every world they've conquered has either surrendered immediately or fought using conventional military tactics. They've never faced an enemy that uses desperate measures and unconventional warfare." General Paul Martinez understood immediately. "You're saying we need to fight dirty?" Amy nodded. "Exactly. Ram their ships, use suicide attacks, employ tactics that their rigid military training never prepared them for. We need to be unpredictable." The first battle occurred near Mars, just as the Zephyrian fleet entered the inner solar system. The alien ships moved in perfect formation, their shields glowing with energy. They expected to sweep aside Earth's primitive defenses quickly. Captain Lisa Thompson led the first attack wave. Her ship, along with 12 other vessels, approached the alien fleet at maximum speed. The Zephyrians detected them immediately but didn't consider such a small force to be a threat. "All ships, activate the new frequency weapons," Lisa commanded. "Remember, we hit them hard and fast, then get out of there." The human ships opened fire with their modified railguns. The weapons fired projectiles at the exact frequency Karen White had calculated. To everyone's amazement, the shots passed right through the alien shields and struck the hull of a Zephyrian cruiser. The alien ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. It was the first Zephyrian vessel to be destroyed in over a century of conquest. The shock wave of the explosion damaged 2 nearby ships. "It worked!" shouted Lieutenant Davis. "The frequency weapons are penetrating their shields." But the celebration was short-lived. The Zephyrian fleet quickly adapted, adjusting their shield frequencies to block the new weapons. However, the damage was done. For the first time in their History: the Zephyrians had lost a ship to an enemy they considered primitive. Supreme Commander Vexstar was furious. How is this possible? Our shields are impenetrable. General Krikstal studied the battle data. Commander, they somehow discovered our shield frequency. But that's impossible. No species has ever understood our technology well enough to counter it. Then these humans are more dangerous than we thought, Vexstar growled. Order the fleet to surround them. Use overwhelming firepower. I want every human ship destroyed. The battle continued for 3 hours. The human ships used tactics that confused and frustrated the Zephyrian commanders. They would attack from unexpected angles, ram alien vessels when their weapons failed, and use their smaller size to hide among asteroid fields. Captain Lisa Thompson's ship was heavily damaged, but she refused to retreat. All power to engines, she ordered. We're going to ram that command ship. Her crew didn't hesitate. The user Vigilant accelerated toward a massive Zephyrian destroyer. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but the human ship was too fast and too small to hit easily. The collision was devastating. The human ship was destroyed instantly, but it punched a hole through the alien destroyer's hull. The Zephyrian ship began losing atmosphere and had to retreat from the battle. By the end of the engagement, humanity had lost 15 ships, but they had destroyed 4 alien vessels and damaged 8 others. More importantly, they had proven that the Zephyrian Empire could be hurt. Supreme Commander Vexstar stared at the battle reports in disbelief. In over 200 conquests, he had never lost more than 1 ship. These humans had destroyed 4 of his vessels and fought with a ferocity he had never encountered. Commander, General Krikstal said quietly, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. These humans are not like the other species we've conquered. Vexstar's rage was beyond control. No, we will show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Empire. Order all ships to advance on Earth immediately. Use maximum firepower. I want their world turned to ash. The Zephyrian fleet regrouped and continued toward Earth, but something had changed. The aliens were no longer confident in their inevitable victory. They had learned that humans were willing to die rather than surrender, and that realization shook them to their core on Earth. The news of the battle spread quickly. Humanity had fought back against impossible odds and had actually won the first engagement. The victory was costly, but it proved that the aliens could be defeated. Admiral Lisa Carter addressed the world's military leaders. The enemy is advancing on Earth. They're angry and they're scared. That makes them dangerous, but it also makes them vulnerable. We've shown them that humans don't give up easily. Now we need to show them what happens when they threaten our home. The Zephyrian fleet regrouped and moved toward Earth with renewed determination. Supreme Commander Vexstar had called for additional reinforcements, and now his fleet numbered over 300 ships. He was no longer taking any chances with the humans. This time, he would use overwhelming force to crush their resistance completely. Major Chris Bailey stood in the control room of a secret facility hidden beneath the Antarctic ice. For 15 years, he had been working on Project Aegis, a defense system that most people believed was just a theory. Now, as alien ships approached Earth, it was time to reveal humanity's greatest secret. All stations, this is Major Bailey. He spoke into his headset. Project Aegis is now active. Begin Phase 1 activation sequence. Around Earth's orbit, hundreds of objects that had been disguised as space debris and old satellites suddenly came to life. These were the Aegis defense platforms, each one equipped with fusion reactors and weapons that could destroy a city. They had been placed in orbit over many years. Hidden in plain sight, the platforms began moving into position, their sensors locking onto the approaching Zephyrian fleet. Each platform was controlled by advanced artificial intelligence that could calculate firing solutions faster than any human pilot. Dr. Rebecca Foster watched the activation from her command center on the moon. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. The moon base was humanity's most closely guarded secret, a fortress built inside the lunar surface that could house over 1 million people. Colonel Pierce, are all lunar defense systems online? She asked the base commander. Colonel Danny Pierce nodded grimly. All weapons are ready, Doctor. The railgun batteries are charged and targeting systems are locked on. The aliens have no idea what they're flying into. The moon base was more than just a weapons platform. It was a complete military installation with manufacturing facilities, living quarters, and enough supplies to last for years. The base had been excavated using mining equipment over the past 20 years, and its existence was known only to a few hundred people back on Earth. The atmosphere itself was being prepared for war. Dr. Sarah Mitchell worked with a team of atmospheric scientists to deploy millions of microscopic particles into the air. These particles would interfere with Zephyrian technology while being harmless to humans. The aerosol deployment is complete, Sarah reported to Earth Command. Any alien ship that enters our atmosphere will experience severe technical difficulties. Their sensors will be useless and their weapons will malfunction. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. The Zephyrians relied heavily on their advanced technology, but that technology was not designed to work in Earth's modified atmosphere. The particles would stick to their ships and create electrical interference that would cripple their systems. Commander Alex Turner coordinated with resistance cells in every major city on Earth. These groups had been training for years, preparing for the day when Earth might face invasion. They had weapons, supplies, and secure communication networks that could operate even if the main military systems were destroyed. Remember, if they get past our orbital defenses, we make them pay for every inch of ground, Alex told the resistance leaders during a secure video conference. We know our planet better than they do. We use that advantage. The first sign of the Zephyrian approach came when their scout ships entered the outer solar system. The alien vessels moved in perfect formation, their shields glowing with energy. They expected to find a primitive world with minimal defenses. Instead, they found hell waiting for them. The Aegis platforms opened fire first. Hundreds of energy beams and projectiles struck the Zephyrian scout ships simultaneously. The aliens had no warning, no time to react. 20 ships were destroyed in the first volley, their hulls torn apart by weapons they never saw coming. What is happening? Supreme Commander Vexstar demanded as his fleet came under attack. Where are these weapons coming from? General Krikstal studied the sensor readings in confusion. Commander, the attacks are coming from small objects scattered throughout their orbital space. They disguised weapons platforms as space debris. We flew right into a trap. The Zephyrian fleet tried to fight back, but the Aegis platforms were too small and too numerous to target effectively. Each platform was heavily armored and could move independently, making them nearly impossible to destroy. From the moon, Colonel Pierce watched the battle unfold. All lunar batteries, prepare to fire. Target their command ships first. The moon's surface erupted with weapons fire. Massive rail guns that had been hidden in craters launched projectiles at incredible speeds. The Zephyrian flagship was hit directly, its shields overloading from the impact. Supreme Commander Vexstar felt his ship shake violently. Impossible, how do they have weapons on their moon? The answer came in the form of more projectiles. The moon base fired continuously, each shot calculated to cause maximum damage to the alien fleet. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy that could turn an entire moon into a weapons platform, but the aliens were not finished. They had brought planet-killer weapons, massive devices designed to destroy entire worlds. If they could not conquer Earth, they would destroy it completely. Deploy the atmospheric entry vehicles, Vexstar ordered. If we cannot take their world, we will make it uninhabitable. The Zephyrian landing ships began descending toward Earth's atmosphere. These vessels were heavily armored and designed to survive orbital bombardment. They carried weapons that could poison the air and water, making the planet useless to any life form. But as soon as the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, they began experiencing problems. The microscopic particles that Dr. Mitchell had deployed started interfering with their systems. Navigation failed, weapons malfunctioned, and life support systems began shutting down. Commander, our ships are losing power, reported a panicked Zephyrian pilot. Something in their atmosphere is causing system failures. Many of the alien landing craft crashed before they could reach the surface. Those that did make it down found themselves in even more trouble. The very air of Earth had become toxic. To their technology. Pilot Sarah Mitchell led squadrons of human fighters that were specially designed to operate in the modified atmosphere. Her ships could fly through the particle-filled air without any problems while the alien vessels struggled to maintain basic functions. "This is Eagle Squadron," Sarah reported over the radio. "The alien ships are sitting ducks. Their technology is completely compromised." The human fighters attacked the grounded alien vessels with devastating effectiveness. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting an enemy that had turned the planet itself into a weapon against them. On the ground, the resistance cells activated. Commander Alex Turner led attacks against alien positions using weapons and tactics that the Zephyrians had never encountered. The humans used the terrain to their advantage, setting traps and ambush that frustrated the alien commanders. "These humans fight like wild animals," complained a Zephyrian ground commander. "They do not follow proper military doctrine. They attack from everywhere at once." The resistance fighters used guerrilla tactics that had been perfected over centuries of human warfare. They struck fast and disappeared into the landscape, leaving the aliens confused and demoralized. Supreme Commander Vexstar watched his invasion force being systematically destroyed. His ships were being torn apart by hidden weapons. His landing craft were crashing in the toxic atmosphere, and his ground forces were being harassed by an enemy that refused to fight fairly. "General Crichton, what are our casualties?" he asked, dreading the answer. "Commander, we have lost over 100 ships and most of our ground forces. The humans have turned their entire planet into a fortress. Every system we have is being countered by their defenses." For the first time in his long career, Vexstar began to doubt his ability to win. The humans had proven that they were not like any enemy the Empire had faced before. They were creative, desperate, and completely unwilling to surrender. "Sir," reported a communications officer, "we're receiving surrender offers from several planets in the Outer Rim. The news of our losses here has spread throughout the galaxy. Other worlds are starting to rebel." Vexstar felt a chill run through him. The Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and the appearance of invincibility. If word spread that they could be defeated, their entire civilization would collapse. "All ships prepare for retreat," he ordered reluctantly. "We need to regroup and develop new strategies." But as the Zephyrian fleet tried to withdraw, they found that Earth was not finished with them. The orbital defense platforms and lunar weapons continued firing, destroying more ships as they tried to escape. The humans had proven their point. Earth was not just another world to be conquered. It was a fortress defended by beings who would rather die than surrender. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's warning had not been an empty threat. Supreme Commander Vexstar stood in his damaged command center, staring at the reports from his failed invasion of Earth. Over half of his fleet was gone, destroyed by weapons he never knew existed. But his pride would not allow him to accept defeat. He activated his emergency communication system and sent a message across the galaxy. "This is Supreme Commander Vexstar to all Zephyrian fleets. I am requesting immediate reinforcement. Send every available ship to Earth coordinates. These humans must be destroyed as an example to the galaxy." Within days, 3 massive fleets began moving toward Earth from different parts of the galaxy. The combined force would number over 10,000 ships, the largest armada the Zephyrian Empire had ever assembled. Vexstar was determined to crush humanity completely, regardless of the cost. But humanity's warning had not been sent only to the Zephyrians. Captain Emma Davis, Earth's chief intelligence officer, had been working on a secret project for months. The message that warned the aliens to stay away from Earth had been broadcast to every corner of the galaxy, reaching worlds that had been enslaved by the Empire for centuries. "Admiral Carter, we're receiving responses from across the galaxy," Emma reported during an emergency meeting at Earth Command. "Dozens of enslaved worlds have heard about our resistance. They're asking for help to start their own rebellions. Admiral Lisa Carter studied the star map showing the locations of the responding worlds. How many are we talking about, Captain? At least 40 worlds so far, ma'am. They've been waiting for someone to prove that the Empire can be defeated. Our victory has given them hope. The news was spreading faster than the Zephyrians could control it. On distant worlds, slaves and conquered peoples whispered about the humans who had told the mighty Empire to stay away from their planet. The psychological impact was enormous. Lieutenant Nathan Clark was chosen to lead a dangerous mission to establish contact with these rebel worlds. Using experimental quantum communication technology developed by Dr. Monica Lewis, they could send messages instantly across vast distances without the Zephyrians being able to intercept them. Nathan, this technology is completely untested over such long ranges, Monica warned him as they prepared the equipment. We don't know if it will work, and if the Empire detects it, they'll know exactly where these rebel worlds are located. Nathan nodded grimly. Doctor, if we don't try to help these people, they'll be slaughtered when the Empire discovers their rebellion plans. We have to take the risk. The quantum communication network came online, and suddenly Earth was in contact with rebel groups throughout the galaxy. The conversations were emotional and inspiring. These beings had been enslaved for generations, and hearing from the humans who had successfully resisted the Empire filled them with courage. This is Commander Zephin of the Altair Resistance, came one transmission. We have been preparing for rebellion for 20 years. Can you teach us how to fight the Empire's technology? Nathan worked around the clock, sharing human tactical knowledge with rebel groups across the galaxy. The information included guerrilla warfare techniques, ways to disrupt Zephyrian technology, and most importantly, the psychological tactics that made humans such effective fighters on Earth. General Kevin Scott was preparing Operation Prometheus, humanity's most audacious plan yet. The operation was named after the mythological figure who stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. The plan was simple but extremely dangerous. We're going to take the fight to them, Kevin explained to a room full of volunteer pilots. We're going to load our fastest ships with our most powerful weapons and send them deep into Zephyrian territory. Our goal is not conquest, but demonstration. The volunteers knew it was a suicide mission. The ships would be packed with experimental nuclear devices and antimatter bombs. They would target Zephyrian supply bases, shipyards, and manufacturing centers. Most of the pilots would not return. Captain Julie Anderson stepped forward first. General, I volunteer to lead the mission. I've been fighting these aliens since they first arrived, and I want to show them what happens when they threaten human children. One by one, other pilots volunteered. They came from every nation on Earth, united by their determination to protect their home world. The ships they would fly were the fastest humanity had ever built, designed specifically for this mission. Dr. Monica Lewis had made breakthrough discoveries about Zephyrian technology by studying the wreckage from their earlier battles. Kevin, I think I know how to make our ships invisible to their sensors, she told the general. If we coat the ships with a special material I've developed, they should be able to slip past most of their defenses. The preparation took 3 weeks. During this time, the quantum communication network continued expanding. More and more worlds joined the rebellion, inspired by humanity's example. The Zephyrian Empire was beginning to face uprisings on dozens of planets simultaneously. Supreme Commander Vexstar was growing desperate. Reports of rebellions were coming in from all over the galaxy. Worlds that had been peaceful for centuries were suddenly in open revolt. His military commanders were demanding more ships to put down the uprisings, but he needed every vessel for the attack on Earth. Commander, we must deal with these rebellions immediately, urged General Crystal. If we allow them to continue, they will spread to other worlds. Vexstar slammed his fist on the command table. The rebellions are being coordinated from Earth. Once we destroy the humans, the other worlds will surrender out of fear. We proceed with the attack as planned. Operation Prometheus launched on a quiet Tuesday morning. 50 human ships, each carrying enough firepower to level a city, departed Earth in different directions. Their targets were carefully chosen to cause maximum psychological impact on the Empire. Captain Julie Anderson commanded the lead ship, UES Retribution. Her target was the main Zephyrian shipyard in the Vega system, where they built their largest warships. The journey would take 2 weeks using the fastest engines humanity possessed. All ships maintain radio silence until we reach our targets, Julie transmitted to the other vessels. Remember, we're not trying to win a war today. We're showing the galaxy that the Empire can be hurt. The ships scattered across the galaxy, each following a different route to avoid detection. The stealth coding Dr. Lewis had developed worked perfectly. The Zephyrian sensor networks detected nothing as the human ships passed through their territory. Meanwhile, the rebel worlds were becoming bolder. On Kepler 442b, a planet that had been enslaved for 200 years, the local population rose. Up against their Zephyrian overlords, they used tactics learned from the humans, striking at night and disappearing before the aliens could respond. Similar uprisings began on other worlds. The Zephyrian garrison forces, which had never faced serious resistance before, were completely unprepared for guerrilla warfare. They had always relied on their superior technology and fear tactics to maintain control. The first target of Operation Prometheus was reached when Captain Julie Anderson's ship arrived at the Vega shipyard. The facility was massive, stretching for hundreds of miles across space. Dozens of new Zephyrian warships were under construction. "This is for Earth," Julie said quietly as she armed the antimatter bombs. "And for every world the Empire has enslaved." The UES Retribution accelerated toward the shipyard at maximum speed. The Zephyrian defenders detected the ship at the last moment, but it was too late to stop it. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The shipyard was completely destroyed, along with 50 new warships that would have been used to conquer other worlds. The psychological impact was enormous. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrians had lost a major military installation to enemy action. Similar attacks occurred throughout the galaxy over the next few days. Human ships struck at manufacturing centers, supply depots, and communication hubs. Each attack was a suicide mission, but each one proved that the Empire was not invincible. The news of these attacks spread quickly through the quantum communication network. Rebel worlds celebrated each human victory, and more planets joined the uprising. The Zephyrian Empire, which had seemed all-powerful just months before, was beginning to crumble. Supreme Commander Vexstar received reports of the attacks with growing horror. His military advisors were in panic, demanding that ships be sent to protect their remaining installations. The Empire's image of invincibility was being shattered by a species they had considered primitive. "Sir, we must reconsider our attack on Earth," General Crystal urged. "These humans are unlike any enemy we have faced. They fight with a desperation that makes them incredibly dangerous." But Vexstar's pride would not allow him to retreat. "No, we will destroy Earth and end this rebellion once and for all. Order. All fleets to advance immediately. I want their planet turned to dust." The largest armada in galactic history began moving toward Earth, but the humans had accomplished their goal. They had shown the galaxy that the mighty Zephyrian Empire could be hurt, and that knowledge was spreading faster than the aliens could contain it. The final battle for Earth was about to begin, but humanity had already won something more important than a military victory. They had given hope to billions of enslaved beings across the galaxy, and that hope was about to change everything. The largest fleet in galactic history approached Earth with 10,000 Zephyrian warships spread across space like a dark cloud. Supreme Commander Vexstar had gathered every available vessel from across the Empire, determined to end the human rebellion once and for all. His flagship, the Eternal Dominion, led the massive armada toward what he believed would be humanity's final day. Dr. Patricia Hughes worked frantically in her laboratory deep beneath the Swiss Alps. For months, she had been developing humanity's most dangerous weapon, a device that could create artificial black holes using quantum manipulation technology. The project was so secret that only a dozen people knew it existed. "Admiral Carter, the singularity generator is ready," Patricia reported over a secure communication line. But I must warn you, we've never tested this at full power. The artificial black hole could be impossible to control once it's created. Admiral Lisa Carter understood the risks. Doctor, how powerful will this black hole be? Powerful enough to consume their entire fleet, Patricia replied grimly. But it might also destroy our orbital defense platforms and anything else nearby. This is truly a weapon of last resort. Meanwhile, the Zephyrian fleet prepared their ultimate weapon. Vexstar had brought the Empire's planet killer device, a massive cannon that could shatter entire worlds. He was no longer interested in conquering Earth. He wanted to destroy it completely as an example to the galaxy. General Crickstall, prepare the World Destroyer, Vexstar commanded. I want every being in the galaxy to see what happens when they defy the Zephyrian Empire. The planet killer began charging its devastating energy beam. The weapon drew power from the engines of 100 ships, creating an energy output that could crack a planet's core. No world had ever survived its destructive force. Admiral Ronald Cooper commanded Earth's remaining fleet from the bridge of the UES Defiance, the same ship that had first encountered the aliens months ago. The human fleet was vastly outnumbered, but they had learned to fight in ways that confused and frustrated their enemies. All ships, prepare for a final engagement, Ronald transmitted to the fleet. Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth today. We're fighting for every enslaved world in the galaxy. Make every shot count? The battle began when the Zephyrian fleet entered Earth's orbital space. The hidden Aegis platforms opened fire. Immediately, their energy beams striking alien ships throughout the formation. But there were too many enemy vessels, and the platforms were quickly overwhelmed by return fire from the moon. Colonel Danny Pierce watched his fortress come under heavy attack. All lunar batteries, continuous fire, he ordered. Target there. Command ships first. The moon's surface erupted with weapons fire, but the Zephyrian fleet was prepared this time. They focused their attack on the lunar installations, pounding them with enough firepower to level continents. The ancient lunar fortress that had taken decades to build was being destroyed in minutes on Earth. The resistance cells prepared for their final stand. Commander Alex Turner knew that if the orbital defenses failed, the planet would face direct bombardment. All units, activate the underground shield generators, he commanded, hidden beneath major cities around the world. Massive energy shield projectors came online. These devices created protective barriers over population centers, but they drew enormous amounts of power and could only operate for a few hours. The space battle raged with incredible ferocity. Human ships used kamikaze tactics, ramming alien vessels and detonating their reactors inside enemy hulls. The Zephyrians had never faced an enemy so willing to sacrifice everything for victory. Captain Emma Davis led a squadron of fighters in a desperate attack on the planet killer weapon. If that thing fires, Earth is finished, she told her pilots. We have to stop it at any cost. The human fighters dove toward the massive weapon, dodging energy beams and missile strikes. Most of them were destroyed before reaching their target, but a few managed to get through. Their sacrifice damaged the planet killer's targeting systems. Buying Earth precious time. Supreme Commander Vexstar watched the battle with growing frustration. The humans were fighting with a desperation that made them incredibly dangerous opponents. Every tactical advantage the Empire possessed was being negated by human willingness to die for their cause. Commander, our casualties are mounting rapidly, reported General Crickstall. These humans are destroying themselves to hurt us. I've never seen such fanatical resistance. Vexstar's rage consumed him completely. I don't care about casualties. Repair the planet killer immediately. I want Earth destroyed now. But the Zephyrian repair crews were struggling with systems damaged by the human suicide attacks. The planet killer would need several more hours before it could fire again. Dr. Patricia Hughes watched the battle from her underground laboratory. The orbital defenses were failing, and the lunar fortress was nearly destroyed. It was time to use humanity's final weapon. Admiral Carter, I'm activating the singularity generator, she reported. All ships need to retreat to minimum safe distance immediately. The device hidden in Earth's upper atmosphere began creating a controlled tear in spacetime. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then reality itself began to bend as an artificial black hole formed in the center of the Zephyrian fleet. The effect was immediate and terrifying. Ships near the singularity were torn apart by gravitational forces beyond anything in nature. The black hole grew larger as it consumed matter, pulling in more and more alien vessels. "What is happening?" Vextar screamed as his fleet was pulled toward the expanding singularity. "How are they controlling a black hole?" The planet-killer weapon, the Empire's ultimate symbol of power, was drawn into the artificial black hole and crushed into nothing. Along with it went hundreds of Zephyrian ships, their advanced technology useless against the fundamental forces of the universe. Panic spread through the alien fleet as ships tried desperately to escape the black hole's pull. But the singularity was growing stronger, fed by the matter it consumed. The careful formation that had made the Zephyrian fleet so powerful became a death trap as ships collided with each other in their attempts to flee. Admiral Ronald Cooper led the surviving human ships in a final assault through the chaos. "All vessels, attack while they're confused," he commanded. "This is our chance to end this war." The human fleet struck at the disorganized aliens with devastating effectiveness. Ships that had survived the black hole found themselves under attack from opponents who showed no mercy. Supreme Commander Vextar felt his mighty flagship being pulled toward the singularity. His engines were at maximum power, but they could not overcome the gravitational force. For the first time in his long career, he faced certain death. "General Crickstall, send a transmission to Earth Command," he ordered desperately. "Request immediate ceasefire negotiations." The transmission reached Admiral Carter just as the artificial black hole began to stabilize. Dr. Hughes had managed to contain the singularity before it could grow large enough to threaten Earth itself. "This is Admiral Lisa Carter of Earth Command," came the response to Vextar's plea. "You were warned to stay away from our world. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." The proud Supreme Commander, who had conquered 200 worlds, found himself in the humiliating position of begging for mercy from beings he had considered inferior. "I surrender," he transmitted, his voice broken with defeat. The Zephyrian Empire surrenders unconditionally. The battle for Earth was over, but the war for galactic freedom was just beginning. News of the Empire's defeat spread through the quantum communication network faster than light itself. On every enslaved world, populations rose up against their Zephyrian overlords. Commander Jake Morrison, who had first encountered the aliens months ago, now stood on the bridge of a captured Zephyrian ship. He was part of the fleet that would carry Earth's message of freedom to every corner of the galaxy. President Helen Brooks addressed not just Earth, but every world in the galaxy. "This is Earth, speaking to all free beings everywhere. The age of the Zephyrian Empire is over. We offer protection to any world seeking freedom from oppression. The galaxy belongs to all of us, not to those who would enslave others." Captain Ryan Wells, the former diplomat who had helped craft humanity's original warning, now served as Earth's first galactic ambassador. His job was to help establish the new government that would replace the fallen empire. The Galactic Confederation is founded on one simple principle, Ryan announced to representatives from freed worlds. "No being should kneel to another. We will defend that principle with our lives." The final scene showed the transformation of the galaxy. Where once the Zephyrian Empire had ruled through fear and oppression, now free worlds worked together for mutual benefit. Humanity had kept its promise. They had issued one warning to the Empire, and when that warning was ignored, they had ended tyranny forever. The message that echoed across the galaxy was simple but powerful. "This is Earth. We came in peace, but we finished the war you started. The age of empires is over. The age of freedom has begun."